Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, a.k.a. Caliban, and be sure to check your engine room for tardigrade eggs. Big problem. Joining me on the show, as usual, is my co-host. She's also the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast, a more or less family-friendly celebration of geekdom. It's Ella Pearson. Ella, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Good to have you back. It's been a while. I mean, it's been a month, I guess.
It has. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. How are your holidays shaping up?
I mean, this week is finals week, so I haven't thought about anything but that for about 2 weeks. So on Friday is when I'll start playing Christmas music in my apartment and really, really vibing. But until then, it's all finals.
Until then, it's just books, and then burn the books after that, or at least get rid of them.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear, and good luck with your finals. It's been a tough year for Trek fans, and just as we move into the news portion of the show here, there's no easy way to get into it. We've had a couple big losses in the world of Trek recently. And specifically, I'm thinking about we lost Aaron Eisenberg earlier in the year, and then recently the deaths of DC Fontana and Renee Auberjonois.
Yeah, and Marina Sirtis's husband.
That's right. Yes, I totally forgot about that as well. Yeah. So it's just been it's been tough. I know we talked about when we lost Aaron, that we talked about how it's just strange that so many of the principles of all the 90s and 2000s Trek shows are still around. And I mean, I don't know what to say. It's coming so soon after that, losing Renee Auberjonois as well, somebody who was a storied actor, and so talented and had done so many different things. Yeah. It's hard to countenance, really.
It really is.
So I guess I don't know if we have anything specific to say about that, but I definitely wanted to just take a moment to honor them, and also mention Robert Walker Jr., who did pass away recently as well, and he of course played Charlie X in that early episode of the original series, and Michael J. Pollard. We lost him as well this year, another character actor with a long history, who was in the episode Miri, of course. So here's to 2020. Everybody stay healthy and stick around. Yeah,
I do. I have a little bit of a dark humor story. Lighten the mood a little bit.
Sure.
When you tweeted about DC Fontana passing, I think you retweeted what Nichelle Nichols' Twitter account had tweeted. But you just said, like, a legend in Star Trek, what can I say? Yeah. And then I thought that Nichelle Nichols had died. And then my phone wouldn't load Nichelle Nichols' Twitter for like 30 seconds. And there was like a solid 30 seconds where I was like, I'm not ready for this.
Right.
And like, obviously the past couple of weeks have been, losing Aaron was hard, and the past couple of weeks have been, tragic. But Nichelle Nichols, I was like, I can't do it. Oh my God.
Yeah. That would be tough. We've still got some of the original series crew, of course, hanging around and hopefully doing well, but it's always really difficult. And especially, this isn't really like a funny story at all, but we had a con here recently where Renee Auberjonois was scheduled to appear, and he had to cancel for personal reasons. And at the time, I thought, well, that's too bad. I hope everything's okay, and maybe he got some more work, or maybe he was doing something else. And it turns out that he was struggling with this illness that I don't think a lot of people knew about.
Yeah, that was just the past. What was it? Wizard World Comic-Con? Was that what it was?
What was there a new company, at least for this area? It was Galaxy Con, I believe.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Wizard, Galaxy, it's all the same.
Yeah. Con.
Okay, well, moving on to different news. Hopefully it's good news. It's good news for fans of the book Cavalier and Clay. It was announced recently that Michael Chabon and his wife and producing partner, Ayelet Waldman, have signed a deal with CBS Studios to produce a series based on his Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, and that will air on Showtime. And and Alex Kurtzman and Kiva Goldsman will be producers on that project. So that's good news. The bad news is that he will not be returning in his role as showrunner for the second season of Star Trek Picard.
No. They can't catch a break.
Well, there's no word on whether they've replaced him as showrunner yet. Yeah. And, of course, this is, I think...
So, of course, it will be you and I.
Yeah, well, that's the goal.
It's a given, yes.
We've sent the letters to the right places, but this is like the good
kind of regime. I graduate in May.
Yeah, okay, and then you'll be all ready to go. Yeah, exactly.
I'm ready to enter the workforce.
Yeah. I mean, this is the good kind of regime change. It's like, at least he's sort of moving up. I still think it's kind of funny that Pulitzer Prize winning writer, he really wants to be in TV, sci-fi TV, but so they haven't announced that. But of course, there's been, issues with Discovery sort of getting up and running and having a consistent leader or showrunner in the writer's room. So have you ever read Cavalier and Clay?
I haven't, actually.
I actually have not either. It's a book that I bought a long time ago, and it's one of those nightstand books that I've never actually got around to. Yeah, but it is a cool story. It's sort of a fictionalized retelling of the creation of Superman and Siegel and Schuster, the guys who created him. So, yeah, well, now I got to read it because it's going to be a TV show.
Yeah, that's whenever I read books that I've been saving. It's like, wait, I can't see the movie.
Yeah, you used to wait for the TV show. Now you got to read it before the TV show, right? Well, speaking of TV shows, we've just seen the fourth and fifth in a new series of short films set in the universe of Star Trek Discovery called Short Treks. This week we're talking about two animated short treks, The Girl Who Made the Stars and Ephraim and Dot. And before we start, as always, we're setting a course for the spoiler zone, so be warned, listeners. We're glad you've decided to join us, but if you haven't seen these short treks yet, spoilers are incoming. The official synopsis for The Girl Who Made the Stars is, when a lightning storm in space scares a young Michael Burnham, her father aims to ease her fears with a mythical story about a brave little girl who faced her own fears head-on. The episode was written by Brandon Schultz. Schultz was a writer's assistant on the first season of Star Trek Discovery, and he wrote the episode Perpetual Infinity for Discovery's second season. And the episode was directed by series director Olatunde Osunsanmi. He previously directed 2 episodes of Discovery Season 1 and 2 of the second season, including the 2-part season finale. And he also directed the short trek Calypso previously. And the titular story of The Girl Who Made the Stars is first referenced in the Season 2 premiere of Discovery Brother, although the version that we see in this short trek is somewhat different than the version that Burnham describes. I also wanted to point out that this episode begins with a lightning storm in space. Which
oh my God. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, which is also referenced in Star Trek 09. I don't know if there's any connection there.
I swear I've seen that movie like 50 times. And so anything that's anywhere near a line from that movie, it's like I have like a flashback. Like I'm immediately like I just hear the freaking audio of the movie in my head. So yeah, she was like and I was like, a lightning storm in space.
Right. Yeah.
It's the same thing. A lightning storm in space.
We finally got her down for the night. Nero's ship comes out of a time warp.
I was literally like, okay, where is it? The mining vessel.
Yeah. And I guess we'll just move on to the facts for the next episode. Ephraim and Dot, the synopsis for that episode is, Ephraim, a humble tardigrade, is flying through the mycelial network when an unexpected encounter takes her on a bewildering adventure through space. The episode was written by Chris Silvestri and Anthony Marinville. Together, the pair wrote the Disco Season 2 episode, The Red Angel. Silvestri also served as a writer's assistant on the first season of Discovery, and Marinville has worked as a researcher for the first 2 seasons of Discovery. And the episode was directed by Michael Giacchino. He's an Academy, Emmy, and Grammy Award-winning composer. He's got a list of credits as long as your arm. You've definitely heard his music, speaking of Star Trek 09. And suffice it to say that he is a frequent collaborator with J.J. Abrams and his Bad Robot production company. And most importantly, he's apparently keeping alive that old Hollywood saw, what I really want to do is direct. A lot of that going around. It might be confusing. I know it was for me who Ephraim and Dot were in the episode. They aren't named in the short. Dot is the robot, DOT-7 drone, similar to the ones seen in Such Sweet Sorrow, the second season finale of Discovery. And, of course, Ephraim is the mother tardigrade here. Ephraim, historically, was one of the 12 tribes of Israel, descended ostensibly from the titular Ephraim, son of Joseph. And the book of Genesis relates the name Ephraim to a Hebrew word meaning being fruitful, which may explain its use here.
Wow.
So, yeah. Hey, you learned something new. So what did you think of, let's start with the girl who made the stars. What did you think?
Sure. I thought it was very cute. To be honest, it's like, it made me feel a little bit like when I saw Wonder Woman in the theaters for the first time, and all of a sudden I was like on the almost fully crying and didn't really know why.
Okay.
If I'm gonna be like brutally honest, Ephraim and Dot stood out much more to me. But yeah, little Michael Burnham, very cute.
That's, well, okay, I guess we have to sort of discuss them simultaneously then.
Yeah.
Kind of went the other way.
Oh,
and
really?
I guess I'll just preface my comments by saying I went into this, I think we all did, with no idea what to expect. You know, this is not Filmation in the 70s. Like, this is a whole new take. This is the first Star Trek animated anything since the Counterclock incident or whatever the last episode of the animated series was. And so I didn't know what to expect. And I was pleasantly surprised by both. I knew that they weren't going to be long. Too. And yeah, I mean, they were short on their shorts. But I think I ended up enjoying the first one. I guess the numbers don't matter. I ended up enjoying Girl more than Ephraim and Dot. And I think some of it had to do with the animation. I think that...
Yeah. I agree with you there. The art in Girl, I thought was much more
There's nothing
pleasing.
wrong with the Ephraim and Dot. It's just that it was so. I thought it was so striking and so well used with the setting, and I'm sure that the Playmobil movie, for instance, just came out, made about $5 million, I think, at the box office and cost $65. Yikes. So, if you've got 7 minutes, you can make anything look good for 7 minutes. But this was like some high quality animation. Like if this had been something in a theatrical film, from DreamWorks or Pixar, I think it would have stood up. It was really great.
Yeah, I mean, it was, perfect. Yeah, that's what I watched with my dad, and we were both like, it's very Pixar. But I feel like it's just like, that's just like it's like a compliment, I guess, because when you think, it's like, we're used to seeing these amazing animated shorts from Pixar and almost only from Pixar.
Right. Yeah,
so I feel like to watch this and be like, it's just like a Pixar short. It's because there's nothing else to compare it to. And Pixar has this monopoly on gorgeous animated shorts. Yeah.
And to compare to that favorably, I think is a really big compliment. So I don't know if this is like a real folklore story, the idea of the girl that made the stars. And as I mentioned before, it was mentioned in Brother as this kind of metaphor of this girl who throws the stars like into the sky, from ash or something, which was an interesting sort of image. And it gets sort of drilled into a little deeper here. I kind of wondered like what the underlying metaphor was. I mean, ultimately it's a father telling his daughter a story to give her, courage. But like it seems like they're early. I know it's not like real, but it's like seems like they're early humans, and they're like visited by an alien or something like that. Which
I know
is kind
it's
of
not
weird
like
looking.
Okay. Yes, tell me if I'm crazy.
Okay,
but like I have a thing when it's like it's a cute story, but then what happens in the cute story is like an alien visits and gives a gift to an early community of people. Yeah. Like I feel like people do that with like the Aztecs a lot, or like the ancient Egyptians, where they're oh, aliens came and gave them the technology. Yeah. And it's like, no, they did it themselves because they were smart.
Well, yeah. Although, in the world of Star Trek, the Vulcans helped humanity out of the ashes of World War III. And I think Star Trek has this weird. I mean, okay. This is a good sign. I think this is a sign that this is a good show. It's just this little thing about this little girl, but yet we're having a philosophical debate here. I think that Star Trek has always been balanced on the point of humanity is much better than we seem to be. We can accomplish things, and we are incredible, inside. Mm-hmm. But also, everybody needs each other. We all need to help each other. We all need community to survive.
Because the other thing is, like, it's not like the alien was like, here's the secret to unlock agriculture. He was like, right. Guess what? There's like stars out there. So
I think it is. I think it really is a metaphor. And I don't know if if this is a Princess Bride thing. Like, we hear his narration, but there's also parts of the story that he's describing an alien, or if this alien is the real truth of this kind of legend. But I think the idea that this the alien is a metaphor, but if the alien does show us that there is more out there in the literal darkness of space that we don't have to be afraid of necessarily. I think that's a good reading. I think it falls apart if you play with it too much.
Yeah.
But for something that is ostensibly aimed at a younger audience, I thought that it fit well for that. And we know that the Nickelodeon show, which is still in development, will be a 3D animated show. I wondered if these two short treks were sort of sampler platters, like, of what we might get. Like, will it look like this one, or will it look like Ephraim and Dot?
Yeah, I have no idea. I was honestly surprised. I wasn't sure if these shorts were going to be aimed at a younger audience or not. And I'm, like, honestly kind of pleasantly surprised that they were. Like, it felt like watching the animated series, like, when I was a kid. Maybe that's why I wanted to burst into tears. Okay. Like, I was very happy that it was, because I didn't know if it was going to feel like, because they're doing the like a more adult cartoon as well. Yeah. And so, but I was happy to watch the short treks that were a little bit lighter and clearly aimed at a younger audience.
Yeah, it was. I found myself thinking, like, am I gonna like this if it's for kids? And found myself being like, yeah, this is pretty great. Like I said, I don't know if this metaphor works at all, but I was really engrossed. I was really kind of following it along.
Me too. Yeah, way more than the past few short treks.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Look at our old episodes for more information about that.
Yeah.
I was really excited to see the return of Kenrick Green as Mike Burnham, somebody who appeared in, like, one brief kind of thing in season 2 and then was gone. And it makes me wonder, there's all kinds of time travels and stuff. Like, do we have a shot at maybe seeing Mike Burnham in the future of the show?
Oh, I don't know. I got no idea.
She, like, almost kills herself and travels through time, in order to get her mom back. And it's like, where's Dad? It's too bad about
for real. I was gonna say, like, we've got Mom. So, like, is it just, I mean, if they're gonna time travel again, that's the problem with time travel, is it opens too many doors. That's the problem with Doctor Who. It's like, when you want to remove a character, it's like, you gotta really, like, what is the episode where we finally lose Rose? You gotta really put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, or Adric just augers the ship into the Earth, and that was the meteor that killed the dinosaurs. Like, you got to make it like a big deal.
Yeah.
But I thought it was cool. Like, I would have loved to have seen Gabrielle Burnham come back too. But I think that would be the choice, since we've seen both these characters before. But to have it be Mike Burnham, I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was sweet.
Anything else? We're not closing the door on this episode, but anything else that you wanted to say?
Not specifically about the first one, I think.
I always wonder when I see things like this, and you don't see things like this often, the balance that 21st century humans have with, or 23rd, I guess in this case, with folklore and legend versus the sort of scientific future of humanity. Like, is this, at the time that this parable is set, it was probably told to girls and boys in the tribe about being brave and how people used to fear the dark and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's still told now while they are literally living in that dark.
Big Snick.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any real point here. I just think it's interesting that it's sort of like these stories still unite us and inform us.
Oh yeah,
And
I mean it
yeah,
still has like a very like a powerful resonance because, Michael is like it's just us and we're all alone here and all this nothing. Um
that snake
yeah.
is scary.
Oh, it's great. It's scary Snick.
Scary
Um
snake.
it's but no, you're right that it's much more it's Star Trek because now we're having this discussion about society and parables. It's very it makes me really happy, honestly, after the after the past few. No shade. Uh
Well, let's move on then to Ephraim and Dot. A different sort of thing. It's also, I think, a parable or a metaphor of sorts, but
yeah,
it's delivered
it's
in a
very
very
fairy
different
tale-esque
style.
almost.
Yeah. I got the idea as it starts off, and I know, okay, so you're talking about like things that we were frustrated with before. I viewed this entire thing through the lens of a Tribble cereal commercial.
And that's fair. That's
in
valid.
in that, to me, like it starts off and it's like this grainy film strip or like
Yeah.
film thing, which doesn't make any sense in
Here's
the
the thing, though.
context.
Ephraim at the beginning of this short, that's how I'm trying to be. Like, she's vibing.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah,
She's vibing hard.
yeah, she's loving her life. She's
And
an
then
expectant mother.
finals hit.
Yeah, there you go. Well, speaking of school, except for I know that like the whole grainy film thing is supposed to put the audience in the mind of this is an educational thing, and so as far as like I'm concerned, this it doesn't have to fit into canon, but this whole thing is like the 23rd century version of like a Disney nature film or something like that,
Yeah.
or like your body and you. This is like an educational short.
The Captain America shorts when he's like, "You're
Yeah.
changing."
Yeah.
Captain America wants you to
Yeah.
to school.
So you laid your eggs on a warp core. Yeah. So, the tardigrade is meets the Enterprise, and I think that
Gotta be honest, when I said that I liked this one much more, I completely forgot about the very beginning and the very end with the narration. That was very out of place, and I agree with you.
I think it seems like it seems like they always want to, I mean, look at Discovery Season 2, but they want to leverage Trek's history and the classic elements people remember, and I still wonder, when are we going to get the J.J. Abrams reboot of TNG? Not that I want that necessarily, but I'm amazed they haven't done it yet. Man, we're getting that a little bit, I guess, with Star Trek Picard. But here's another clever way to return us to Kirk's Enterprise, this time in the form of animation and sort of selected audio clips.
I gotta say, that first scene, when I heard William Shatner, I almost lost my mind. Because it was I immediately knew it's just like that's, I don't know, like the original series, the sound of the original series is so much just like my childhood and obviously many other people's childhoods, but just like to hear his voice, I was like, oh my God. And then I realized like that it was like Khan and I was like, oh my God. And then, although then with the second one I think was Sulu with the sword, and I was a little like, okay, this is concerning. But I think all of the like cameos per se, I think ended up being more cute because it's like Ephraim chased the Enterprise forever and ever and ever, and the feeling was like,
right. It's Right, yeah. That it feels like a golden storybook sort of. Yeah, I want to know how Naked Time can take place after Space Seed, though. I know they're traveling in time, but come on. But yeah, they had Abe Lincoln, like a gigantic Abe Lincoln, and then he's like, and he shook his fist at them. Hey, what are you doing?
I know. I was like, me. Wow,
traveling through time.
What a mood.
Yeah, it was like a like a jukebox musical, like
yes,
ABBA or something like that. Yeah, that's what it felt like to me, like putting references in and definitely cute.
Oh man.
I want to know about these robots.
About Dot, it's just Eve from Wall-E, but mean.
Well, yeah, like 50 years of Star Trek, no robots, at least, for Earth or humanity. And then now we got robots. And I'm okay with that. I think that automation would definitely be something that you'd need in the future. But
Yeah.
they took like like half of Discovery season 2 was explaining why there's no holograms on the Enterprise. They're going to need a whole entire series to explain where all the robots came from.
I like that the robot seems to have a concept of vengeance.
Yes, and also sarcasm too. Like live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. It's like die in space, idiot. But then also it's programmed to then it is cute that it's like I know some nerd in the programming was like, but if there's eggs, save the eggs, especially tardigrade eggs, safe. But if there's an actual tardigrade, just immediate fight to the death. It's on site.
Right, yeah.
Any Dot sees a tardigrade in a spaceship on site, like immediate, like just Glock.
Yeah, I thought that it had a weird sort of darker tone that probably wouldn't have made it into that Golden Book, because while it's beating it up, I'm thinking this is a pregnant mother. Like it's just slamming it around. And then of course the entire short becomes about, oh my God, did all of my babies like just die when
I know, I was like, this
my
is
God,
a short.
Bones, what have I done? You've killed all of Ephraim's babies. Yeah.
I was watching it and I was like, if I was watching this and I was a kid, I would be so stressed. I know that me as a kid, I would be borderline, inconsolable about those tardigrade eggs.
It all works out though.
A good thing or a bad thing. It does work out.
Yeah.
Then when Dot's freaking belly opens like a seahorse, come on.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to love that.
Well, we can leave it open for Ephraim and Dot too.
I just realized that I've been roasting everyone for being in love with Baby Yoda, but Star Trek has just done the exact same thing to me with this short.
Yeah.
Wow, they caught me slipping.
If Tribbles had big eyes like Baby Yoda, they'd get one up there, I think.
You think, Tribbles? I could see it.
Well, Tribbles are like...
It's Tribbles weren't born out of corporate greed.
The idea...
in this essay, I will...
But they're full of fiber, though. Well, it's funny because you talk about the sort of corporate side or the sort of marketing side, and I think this is the problem with Trek. I was thinking about this, and as somebody who's in media studies, maybe you can tell me if this is good or not, but I think Trek needs to go mainstream, and I think it has in a lot of ways gone mainstream, but I think that is the problem in its identity crisis right now, because when you are mainstream, then everything has to be an event. You can't just be working off on the side. For 50 years, Trek was for nerds, it had an underdog sort of outside status, but thanks to social media.
The thing is now we're living in this time where like science fiction is no longer this separate cult genre.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about it. And I got a little roasted on a panel last summer for saying this, but Marvel movies, those are science fiction. And nobody says like, oh, frickin' whatever sci-fi nerd garbage. It's like the
right.
Summer blockbuster, whatever you want to say about Marvel movies and Marvel movies in the past 5 years even. But let's like movies like Arrival, movies like The Martian, like science fiction and especially like this kind of like space travel alien specificity within it. That's no longer like a niche subject.
Yeah. And even if it was, it doesn't really matter. Social media brings all of the fans of that together. So nobody feels weird because they've got a Spock poster in their bedroom and they don't have anybody to talk to, like Teen Wolf, the show, or like Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is totally sci-fi, and yet it has a big sort of normie fan base who probably consider themselves to be like super sci-fi fans because everybody can be in their own communities. I was thinking about like, this is going to really, this goes way back. But when I was in like junior high or high school, the metal kids were like, oh man, they're off on their own. They think they're so cool. Nobody understands like metal or whatever. And meanwhile, like on MTV, like everything is metal. It was all this and that. And they still felt like they were like a subset of the population. And I don't think that doesn't exist anymore. So I think Trek needs to find, and I think it is doing it in a lot of ways, but it needs to like keep trying things and be released from that sort of jail. And I think the animated series is the way to do that, or to having animated shorts, and even short treks, I think, is the way to do that, because I could definitely see a franchise like this. I could see like Ephraim and Dot going on and doing a thing, or at least looking at the history of Star Trek through a sort of comedic, soft lens like that. And I could see even characters doing things like they do in The Girl Who Made the Stars, or diving into the personal lives of some of the characters.
Ephraim and Dot children's comic books. Trademark, CBS, call me.
Yeah.
Call me for my rate.
Although they don't talk much, so it'd be like a spy versus spy type thing. Like they just have to, it'd be all in the art.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I think you are absolutely right. To maybe not the entirety of the identity crisis, but of a decent portion of it is definitely due to trying to be mainstream.
Yeah.
Trying to work in a bigger audience.
Yeah. And I mean,
it's also like, do you need a bigger audience? Because the first round, even the original series, the letter writing campaigns alone, the fanzines, like.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the secret. They were never out of the mainstream. It's always been mainstream. But now that the Big Bang is off the air, we can finally be treated like human beings again.
Oh, no.
I want to know.
Listen, we got to play rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. I don't care.
Yeah, right. I want to see a show about the lives of the people that work in the Starfleet animation department who are creating these educational films like Ephraim and Dot, like a Bob Newhart type thing where we see them trying to come up with pitches for like, well, let's do a story about Vulcan measles or something like that. Your body.
And they're like, no, we got to convince the kids to enlist. If we do a story about Vulcan measles, they're never going to leave the planet.
Yeah. Let's do one explaining how the Klingons got their forehead ridges.
I'd watch it.
Me too. All right, well, trademark that.
Okay, CBS, call us for our rate.
Yeah, this is an ideas room here. Anything else that you wanted to say about Ephraim and Dot, or even the girl who made the stars?
I don't think so. I'm very pleasantly surprised this week. Definitely what I needed right before finals.
Yeah, it felt good. And I'd like to see more. And I think that's probably the real test of quality.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. We did it. We're happy.
We did do it.
It feels good.
I know. Our last episode was such a both of us were just like, oh, what do we say? Oh, no. And now we're like,
do we keep doing this?
Yeah, it's like, are we just going to be sad every week? Live on air?
Oh, we saved it. Or they saved us. So that is it for this week. Thanks for joining us, listeners. And if you like what you hear, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPOD for updates and to get notified when episodes of both Enterprising Individuals and Discoverage are released. And tweet to us on the show or about the show by using the hashtag Discoverage. Or you can email us at eistpod@gmail.com. While you're on the old internet, why don't you head to your listening platform of choice and subscribe to the show. Give us a rating and a review if you think of it, because it really does help us out. And if you really like the show, tell a friend. That's probably the best way to help us out. Discoverage will return next year in January for the next and last short trek of this batch. It's called Children of Mars and will reportedly be a prequel of sorts to Star Trek Picard. Oh, on that note, I was going to mention... have you read the Picard Countdown comic?
No.
There is a comic out right now. I think it's from... Actually, I don't know what company it's from. It used to be from IDW, but I don't know who do Star Trek comics now. It's written by Kristen Beyer and Mike Johnson, who's done a lot of the IDW comics. Yeah, and it is basically like what happens right before Star Trek Picard starts. Not directly before. It's like his last mission in Starfleet.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I was really reluctant about reading it because I thought I want to go into this show cold. But then I thought, oh, I mean, it's probably going to be pretty good. And I've been really impressed so far. The art's great. And it's so weird to see it's Jean-Luc Picard on the bridge of a starship, like doing his job. I forgot how long it had been since I had sort of experienced that. So I would check that out.
I mean, yeah, I'm certain that I'm gonna turn around and my dad's gonna have whatever issues are out in his hand already. Yeah, he's gonna all Star Trek print work just materializes in our household without any. It's never have to buy it. It just appears. It's just always here.
Well, dig into that then. Everybody else go buy it. In the meantime, you can check out our main show, Enterprising Individuals, at enterprisingindividuals.com. We just recently wrapped our 4th season of the show, and we're currently on hiatus until 2020. So now would be a good time to check out some of our recent episodes or any of the fine programs on the Just Enough Trope Network, available at justenoughtrope.com. Ella, thanks as always for joining me to talk about the short treks today. Remind people where they can find you online.
Yeah, we are at Generations Geek on Twitter and every other social media. We have our own separate channel, still pretty new, almost wherever you can listen to podcasts. So check us out there. Rate and review. We'll have some good new stuff coming up now over the break. We'll be done with school for a minute. And I think that I'm allowed to say that I'm a guest on an upcoming episode of a local J.R.R. Tolkien podcast called Keep on Tolkien.
Right.
So I believe that's KOT Pod on Twitter, I think, but it's Keep on Tolkien, just how it sounds. And it's an Artifacts episode about rings.
Ooh, okay,
and
cool.
They're talking super fun.
I'm looking forward to you talking about your stage experiences or theater experiences in London. And I didn't know that you got to see that Pinter production with Charlie Cox and Tom Hiddleston.
The Love of My Life? Yes. Oh my God. It was amazing. I saw it twice, actually. I saw it once the day they dropped the tickets. I bought tickets. I couldn't get first row. I got third row. I think first row would have been a little overwhelming, so I saw it third row, and then I saw it again from, the nosebleeds. And yeah, it was amazing. And now they've been on Broadway for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw Haley Atwell, everyone. Yeah, that's coming up. I saw Martin Freeman in a Pinter production too.
Wow. Okay, well, anyway, save it.
Yeah.
And people can tune into Generations Geek to hear about that. And that's it for us. Thanks for listening this week. We're signing off until next year. This is Aaron for Ella saying, live long and prosper.